Hi folks, Kurt Becker here. It has been my privilege to be the track announcer at Keeneland since 1997. A few racing fans have sent in some questions about my job. We thought we might take some time to take a look at those questions, see if we can provide a few answers. Let's start with, what's your pre-race process to memorize names and post positions? That really starts a few days out when the entries are first released from the racing office. I will go online, I'll look up horses, I'll look up past racing footage, and then in that 10 minutes or so from the time they come on the track until the time the horses go in the gate, just keep looking through the binoculars and studying the jockey's silks, because you can identify by seeing the jockey's silks a lot better than you can by trying to search for that pesky saddle towel, because those horses get bunched up and they tend to race pretty close together. Someone else has asked, how did you get into horse racing? I was fortunate, like a lot of folks in the game. I grew up in the horse business, although it was in the standardbred business. My father, for many, many years, has been a track announcer for the harness racing game. He's actually in the Harness Racing Hall of Fame. But he also used to announce some county and state fair thoroughbred races, which was how I first got interested in getting involved in thoroughbred racing. Have you always had a good memory? I've been fortunate in that regard. I actually get this from my mother. My mom is one of these people that she remembers the most trivial things that the rest of us would forget, and it's amazing. So I've been fortunate. You know, in the horse business, we say that the dam's side of the pedigree accounts for 75% of the foal. Well, I subscribe to that theory, at least when it comes to those memorization skills. Someone else wants to know, have you ever gotten tongue-tied when calling a race? I don't know about tongue-tied. I know that sometimes your brain does work faster than your tongue can keep up. I had good advice many years ago from Alan Bestwick, a sportscaster who covered motorsports with me for many years at Motor Racing Network, and then he went on to become a member of the ESPN family of broadcasters. Alan always had good advice. What he used to say about car racing, just because they're going 200 miles an hour doesn't mean you have to go 200 miles an hour. So I just apply that same rule to horse racing. Even though they're going 35 to 40 miles an hour, I still don't have to go that fast. You just have to give yourself time to let everything process through your brain before it reaches your tongue. Someone has asked, what's the toughest name you've had to call during a race? This one might surprise our racing fans. I don't know that I can think of a particular name that was difficult to call. I will give you an example of some of the most challenging are names that are difficult to enunciate clearly. Horses with the name Colony. That 3-syllable word, Colony, if I'm not careful, it comes off my tongue as 2 syllables, and I get frustrated with myself. That's one I always have to stop and be deliberate. Another one, you might remember when Tonalist came here, the Breeders' Cup Classic a few years ago. Seems like a pretty simple name, but those 3 syllables, if I'm not careful, even when I'm working horse sales and I'm announcing at the sales at Keeneland and we have a son or daughter of Tonalist, I have to be careful to slow down and be deliberate because, again, it slides from 3 syllables down to 2 if one doesn't take his time. Another good question. What do you like to do when you're not at Keeneland? My hobby is collecting antique glassware. I have a friend who about 15, 20 years ago got me interested in this. I love carnival glass, Vaseline glass, custard glass, pressed glass, cut glass. We're talking these old fruit bowls, pitchers, tumblers, vases. I just think they're magnificent. They're beautiful pieces that were made in the late 1800s to early 1900s, and I love the fact that they have survived the test of time. So they're not only a thing of beauty, but they also have a certain rugged quality about them because they have been with us for so many decades. Tell us about your announcing duties outside of horse racing. Well, I touched on it earlier. I've had a chance over the years to be involved with NASCAR racing as a radio play-by-play announcer with the folks at Motor Racing Network. So that's a lot of fun. And what I enjoy most about that was when I go to the NASCAR side, I get folks there that ask me about Keeneland. They ask me about thoroughbred racing. And it's the same thing when it comes the other direction. I get folks in the thoroughbred game who like to ask me about NASCAR racing. That is one of the most fun aspects of my career. It gives me a chance to be an ambassador for both sports. Finally, somebody has asked about my attendance record. Do I have perfect attendance as the track announcer here at Keeneland? I have to admit I don't. I came here in the spring of 1997, And early on in my career, and a lot of folks don't remember this, in the spring of '99, this was back when the Ashland was the opening weekend feature, and then the Toyota Bluegrass would be run the following weekend. Well, on that particular occasion, the Central Bank Ashland, I wasn't here for that weekend. I had been ill and I had been hospitalized, so Mike Battaglia was kind enough to fill in. I will always owe Mike a debt of gratitude, because if Mike hadn't stepped up and said, sure, I'll be happy to cover the weekend, and of course did his usual fantastic job, I don't know what I would have done. So Mike, if you're watching, I still owe you big time. Folks, these are some great questions. It's always fun to talk racing and talk about Keeneland and what we all do here. So with that said, enjoy your race day.